Welcome to the Undercurrent. I'm Lauren Windsor. We're sitting here with Congressman Michael Burgess of Texas. Welcome.
Thank you, Lauren. Thanks for having me on your show.
Thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. So you just spoke about the high cost of prescription drugs. So would you advocate any reforms to the pharmaceutical industry and their ability to market?
Well, look, that's a multifaceted question. You do have drugs now that, after a period of time, become available on the generic market. As someone who has a health savings account, I'm very cognizant of whether or not there is a generic medication of what's prescribed to me because it's obviously very cost effective. On the other hand, we are very fortunate in this country that we're kind of at the forefront of cutting edge research. The stuff that's happening right now in the clinical oncology space with the new drugs that are being developed, all these little intracellular mechanisms that everybody learned about in biology, turns out they're all important, and targeting those intracellular mechanisms can actually turn off a tumor's growth and do so rather specifically and effectively. So you don't want to stop or stifle that type of innovation.
Well, I think I'm speaking more to the marketing of drugs, that you see an unprecedented amount of pharmaceutical ads on TV, and you see that that's translated to a lot of profits because the average 75-year-old's on 5 different medications.
There have been, I think one of the parts of the Affordable Care Act was to restrict the number of dollars that a company can use for that. It's a tough question because there are free speech issues, but there are some questions as to whether or not those dollars should be able to be subtracted from the tax bill as one of the costs of doing business. And that's sort of where the argument has centered. I'll just tell you from my experience in practice, I practiced for over 20 years back in Texas. I didn't much care for pharmaceutical advertising. After all, I'm the doctor. I'm going to make the decisions, not you, right? But informed patients do play a role. And the patient of today typically comes into the office knowing a great deal about their diagnosis of their condition because they've been on the internet, because they've looked at various sites and taken the trouble to learn. So it is a different. There's a different availability for information than there was when I first started in practice in the 70s and 80s.
Well, do you think it's a violation of the Hippocratic Oath for doctors to be taking money from pharmaceutical companies to be writing prescriptions for drugs from that particular pharmaceutical industry?
Most doctors are not actually paid by the pharmaceutical industry. We see a patient, we charge for the encounter, we write a prescription.
Well, there's a report that came out this last week that they estimated that $250 million have been paid to doctors from pharmaceutical companies to write the prescriptions for their particular medicines.
Yeah, I can't speak to that. Certainly didn't happen in my practice.
So you wouldn't support it?
No, I think everybody has to make the decision about which medicine is best for the patient. It needs to be done independently of outside influences.
Great. One other question. I just wanted to tack a completely different subject matter. A big topic around the Hill has been the moms demand action on gun control. They were lobbying members of Congress all week. What's your stance? Do you support any reforms to our current gun laws?
Well, this is one of the things that the committee is investigating, the nexus between mental health and people involved in these high-profile shootings. I think there is a lot of information out there that is not known. It's been very difficult to get information from authorities on some of these things. I think you need to be careful that you don't push forward with legislation in reaction to a tragic event and then end up having to come back and fix it later. It's important for us to get this right.
Well, we certainly support civil liberties, but in terms of the polling has shown that 90% of Americans support universal background checks. Would you support that?
At the present time, you look at the people who actually lie on their background check, the number of people that are actually prosecuted out of those that they discover who have lied is minuscule. It's like 1/10 of 1%. The Department of Justice is not going to be serious about pursuing people who lie on their background check. I don't see how in the world additional background checks are going to be of great value. Look, let's be honest, 99.99% of gun owners in this country are responsible gun owners. They take care of their property. They ensure that it's only used in the proper circumstances. For the most part,
we support gun rights.
We need to leave those
I wonder
people
if
alone.
Universal background checks, in your mind, will it make a difference, and would you support it?
Well, again, I don't think the Department of Justice has been serious about pursuing the background checks as they're going on now. Look, last time I bought a gun, which has been a few years ago, a background check was accomplished in fairly short order. It wasn't terribly onerous or intrusive, but at the same time, if you know that somebody else is going to that same dealer, misrepresenting about who they are or their ability to buy a gun, and the Department of Justice finds out about it and they don't do anything, why do you make most of us who are law-abiding citizens go through that process and make it more difficult for us to exercise our rights?
So greater enforcement
Absolutely, you need to enforce
of the
laws that
already
exist.
existing laws. Thank you so much
All
for
right,
your
thank
time.
you.
Have I been hypnotized to believe in lies with the monologue, questioning God like Hippocratic, cause the odds keep stacking up? Where is the illumination for the human nation?